Oh man, late night, but you know what? I'm ready to talk some Star Wars. This is the Cinefanatics channel, guys. My name is Chris Adams, and I am joined once again for a Bad Batch breakdown with fan favorite Adam Witt.
Oh, God bless you. I'm so behind on this. I'm literally tweeting that the show is live right now. I look up and I'm like, oh, I'm on the show. Hold on. I'm that far behind. I'm like, let me let people know to watch this thing. Nevertheless, I'm live with the Cinefanatics. I'm finishing tweeting now. Hello, how are you, Chris?
I am good. I am excited about this episode, man. It was so good. But before we get into it, I just want to let everybody know that if you have anything you want to say while the show is live, streamlabs.com/cinefanatics, best place to say it right there. And we'll catch what you're saying and chime in.
We depend on you to keep this conversation lively. Look, I've got a lot to say. I've got a lot of energy. I'm very excited to talk about Star Wars. You know, you wind me up and let me go. But I got to tell you, we need you guys to throw some questions and comments. And when I can't remember the word Palpatine like last week for some reason, I need you to put it in the chat and say, Adam, I think you're thinking of the word Rancor. I think you're thinking of Fortuna, Bib of the Fortuna brothers.
That's perfect. Well, guys, just so you know, for some reason, we're doing spoiler talks on these episodes. So if you have not seen episode 5, which I believe is Rampage, you might want to watch that before you watch this.
Yes, Rampage is the episode. Well, spoiler is the episode with the monkey, the Godzilla, and the wolf that tear down buildings. And the Bad Batch have to stop them. That's not true. But if you've seen this episode, you know that's not true. In which case, you're in the know. And I've turned everybody else off, so no spoilers. From here on out, if we give spoilers, you've been warned that this is not based on the Konami video game Rampage. Or the Dwight Rock Johnson Rampage. Is his name Dwight? Dwayne. He doesn't seem like a Dwayne, in my defense.
True. For a second there, I thought you were saying like Godzilla, the monkey, and the moth sweeping in there.
Yes, that would be Godzilla, King of the Mothsters.
Hey, there it is. There it is.
And Rodan. And I believe Ghidorah and Mecha Godzilla. And I don't think the Smog Monster was in that movie, but I haven't seen King Kong versus Godzilla. The Smog Monster or the Sea Monster may show up.
That would be really cool to see. But that's great for Godzilla. Let's talk about some Star Wars.
Enough of that war in the stars on Planet Monster, or whatever they call that shit. We're here to talk about the Bad Batch. They're not very good, folks. They're not a good batch whatsoever. Spoiler alert. I might be tired. I'm rambling.
a little bit. We're both feeling it a little bit.
Yeah, I know.
This was a great episode. I love this episode.
Right.
Starting off here because we're talking about whenever they're able to inject something from Star Wars past.
Love it.
Or in their case, Star Wars future. No, that's too hairy. Anything that we've seen before in the middle of this.
Well, no, you said it right. Star Wars past, Star Wars future, because we see some things here that will grow into the mythology that we know.
Yeah.
And this is, but before I get to that, I do have to ask Chris, because as a Star Wars competitor, I'm well aware sometimes when a deep reference passes through. Chris Adams, do you know where we've heard of Ord Mantell before?
Ooh.
Because that is the planet this takes place on, Ord Mantell.
That's a good question. I meant to actually look this up, and I did not. I failed. I'm going to throw out a guess. Somewhere that one of the pod racers was from.
Incorrect.
Damn.
Now, much like, you know, when in the famous case of Star Wars Episode 4, when Obi-Wan Kenobi, when Luke says, oh, you fought in the Clone Wars? And that's it. That's all we're hearing about the Clone Wars. Though that sentence lives in the head of children and people that love Star Wars to go, what was the Clone Wars? What? Oh my God, the Clone Wars? Oh my God, he just mentioned a gigantic thing. Eventually, Lucas gets to making the Clone Wars and Attack of the Clones, and that's all very exciting because that is just one word in Episode 4. One sentence also in The Empire Strikes Back, when General Rykian asks Han Solo if he's sure he wants to leave Hoth, Han Solo says, "The bounty hunter I ran into on Ord Mantell changed my mind about staying and working with it." So
Wow.
this is the planet that, in between Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back, a classic Star Wars move, a classic George Lucas move, like, let's just throw out there was an incident on Ord Mantell and give you no more details. And so anytime anybody's like, Star Wars, aren't they done telling those stories? I'm like, there was a story per minute. I would watch a whole movie on Walrus Man from the Cantina, but certainly I want to see Ord Mantell and know anything about it. So as soon as we're watching scenes on Ord Mantell, because this show clearly is like, land on a planet, find a problem, save the day, get the hell out. Beginning of next episode, we're out of blank. Land on whatever, look for blank, get caught up with the local population, save the day like true heroes. Take off. Next, So here we are in Ord Mantell.
That's fascinating. I didn't realize that was something that Han said. Here's the thing. I still got to go back and do my entire Star Wars rewatch, because that may be something that could potentially help me in some way at some point in the future. So that's one thing to say.
Yeah. Bounty Hunter ran to that has been asked in Schmodown many times. That's a kind of a classic, I think. Yeah. Well, on what planet did Han Solo run into a bounty hunter, according to his thing in The Empire Strikes Back? So that's cool. I mean, Ord Mantell, just something that's mentioned, just like the Clone Wars, and boom, once again, one of the extended universe things goes, let's pop into Ord Mantell. And so immediately I'm like, wow, this is where Han Solo ran into. It's another hive of scum and villainy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, this is where Han Solo ran into a bounty hunter. It was like, Jabba sent me. Boom, boom, boom. Han had to shoot first again. We write this whole story in our heads off screen. Mm-hmm. So here we are on Ord Mantell. So I thought that was awesome. And that was enough to get me going. And then all kinds of other stuff happens in this episode as well.
Yeah, you say another hive of scum and villainy. It did have very same aesthetic as like the deeper parts of like Coruscant. If you go like down the levels, it definitely felt like that. I mean, I think that seems to be like the tone and the aesthetic of most of this show, which is the deeper, grimier areas of the Star Wars universe.
You know what it felt like? It felt like a city planet, like well, actually, what's interesting, from a distance, it looked a little bit like a hive planet, kind of like Geonosis. Yeah. Not 100%, but like the structures and stuff. And then you got closer, and it had a city vibe, but with sort of the street vibe of in Rogue One, Jeddah. It felt like Jeddah lit by Coruscant. So it's kind of like a little city vibe, but a little Jeddah as well. So yeah, it's a little wild space. That's what's fun about this. What people didn't like about the prequel trilogy is that was so clean and cities and stuff like that. We realized when Rogue One, because it was so perfectly put on screen, that like, no, now you're in wild space. Now there's lawless land. This is back to and this show is firmly living in that and transitioning to Rogue One style lawlessness, the lawless land. So yeah, I feel like we're getting that every week now. You're like, oh man, stuff ain't safe the way it was in the universe, in the Clone Wars and the prequel trilogy. Stuff's like danger around every corner, just, on this planet.
Yeah, and that's what I love about this, is because we're obviously following a crew of our merry band of miscreants who are going to get into a bunch of trouble around every corner. And I think it just means that this, like you were saying, a new planet, new story. I think that again is just the perfect vibe. We're seeing that here, especially as we're like bringing up not just a planet that was mentioned in, say, Empire Strikes Back, but also a species of alien that we've seen, before in, say, like the Clone Wars with the Zygerians, and having them come back in. Zygerians were the cat looking guys who had the dragon.
Right. Oh yeah. The cat. Okay, I got that feeling that these are characters from the Clone Wars series that I just didn't know, because there's a significant pockets of the Clone Wars I haven't seen. So these guys are an existing species from that show. So
it's a really interesting arc if you go back. Because they are slave traders, so they are people who like enslave and then sell the slaves off to the highest bidders type situation. There was a really good arc about that back in the Clone Wars, where I believe Obi-Wan and Anakin. I can't remember if they had to like go save Ahsoka from them, but whatever the arc may be, Anakin was kind of having to be face to face with these slave traders, and knowing his past as a slave himself, it was a really good character moment, and actually gave you like one of his like first moments, showing the dark side within him kind of coming out as he's like facing these guys.
Which is the great service that the Clone Wars series does, which is take any doubt in the arc of Anakin between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith and really flesh that out, because it was kind of like unsatisfying that, oh my God, Anakin took a turn. Yeah. Tell him one story about some other Dark Lord that brings people back from the dead, and boom, that's it for Anakin. So that is a great service that the Clone Wars serves.
Yeah, because you go from like he's a scared child, then Attack of the Clones. He's got some issues. He's got some stuff that he's dealing with.
Boy band angry. That's it.
Yeah, and then you go into Revenge of the Sith, and he's just hard left. Right. And so the Clone Wars, obviously taking over a period of time of like a few years, you get to see how that transition happens.
And the other thing you mentioned one of the big criticisms I had, I didn't share most of the criticisms of Phantom Menace. Every time I get in an argument with somebody about this or that was wrong, I'm like, I think you're missing the point. This and that's wrong, but nobody mentions these couple of things that are actually more significant than Jar Jar. I'm like, yes, he didn't like Jar Jar, but there's other things like the fact that Anakin's a slave. Now, I understand. I don't want to be that guy who's like, hey, do the alcoholism storyline Marvel movie. It's like, I think you're missing the point of the kids' movies. But, like slavery is just dropped as a reference often in Star Wars. And we never see this. Nobody wants to see. Obviously, Disney doesn't want to present the 21 years a slave or 12 years a slave of the Star Wars universe. But it is sort of the thing of like, the jolly slave Anakin. You're like, all right, well, don't even mention slavery then. Like, it's okay that that's a shitty job and Watto sucks. You don't have to bring slavery into it. But the fact is, that's become a very significant thing in the Bad Batch, that they're, once again, just like that they did Anakin's story more justice, so that by the time you get to Revenge of the Sith, if you've seen the Clone Wars, you're like, I believe that arc. I believe that journey he took. And the same thing here, that like, they go, slavery is illegal in the Republic. And the people are like, there is no Republic. That got mentioned in this episode. I was like, that is awesome to hammer home, of like the universe that you thought you lived in, which is the prequel universe. That's yesterday, dude. We're now in the Rogue One Episode 4 universe. Like, once an episode somebody states something that's like, nah, we ain't in prequels anymore, dude. Yeah, no, I know slavery was illegal in the prequels, but we're not. Now we're in Episode 4, so sorry, dude. It's the dark times. It's pretty interesting. It's interesting to hammer home every episode.
In which that also like explains to you why you have like gangsters like Jabba the Hutt who can exist and can essentially own slaves himself. It's everything, with the certain individuals just kind of flies underneath the Empire now, and the Empire doesn't care.
And since you said it, this is the biggest name check so far, right? We've had Caleb Dune, we've had little characters that you're like, oh, I know that character, and you and I will discuss it, like, is that the guy from this episode or whatever? But a big one in this movie, and let's say how it happens. They land on this planet. They're looking for information on bounty hunter. Yeah. They're looking for information on her. They talk to what I believe is a Bosk, right? The little squat. The series has taken things that are traditionally tall and virile and made them squat. I can't remember. There was some other. We saw a tiny, chubby version of some other character, but this is like a Bosk, a Trandoshan.
That's it. I was like, this is going to bother me. What is their species name?
Yeah, and it's just, again, a lawless planet. It's like, I don't know. I'll grease my palm a little bit. I'll tell you about the bounty hunter. And it's like, but I need, you guys are the baddest asses in the universe. I need a favor from you. You go get this person from these guys, and then I'll give you the information they need. Bad Batch needs to hear no more than that. They're like, yeah, what's the name? Where are you going? All right, we're the baddest ass in the universe. So they go to save what they think is a person.
Yep.
I forget what the name was. They're
Moochie.
Moochie, that's right. Or Mochi.
Moochie.
Yeah. So he's like, go save Moochie. My punky muffin, basically, is what it reminded me of from Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Go save Moochie. And they're like, all right, let's save this Moochie. And so they look at all the normal looking people and they're like, is this Moochie? Is this Moochie? Is this Moochie? No, it turns out Moochie is
Rancor.
a baby Rancor. The big question in this episode, Chris Adams, and I asked the chat, and we got to put this on Twitter. Will baby Rancor be as big as baby Yoda, or have they dove into the well too many times for the cute baby?
I mean, everything that they do at this point, they can market toys all they want, and that's perfectly fine. Adults will buy them.
For cute baby Rancor? The Grogu of Rancors?
Can you imagine a child like cuddling a soft plushy Moochie?
No. I think they've gone too far. I think Baby Yoda, that's a slam dunk. We all love Yoda. Yoda's cute. We all want to hug Yoda to begin with. You make him smaller and cuter in a baby. Things we like anyway. We like small things. We like cute things. We like babies. You take all that and you add Yoda to it, you got yourself a hit. You got yourself a stew. But I think you go Rancor. I don't know if anybody's going to be... I don't know if Video Drew's going to be hugging a Rancor in videos later this year. Baby Rancor, Mochi.
I want my Beanie Baby Rancor, Adam.
Well, I can see that happening. A Beanie Baby Rancor. What's interesting is, let me just say this as a Star Wars competitor, there's always been a tug of war between canon and non-canon. Mm-hmm. This was a gigantic canon break. I don't know if this is the Rancor that Luke Skywalker fights. Do you think it is?
It's not.
It's not. Okay. Because you know the name of that Rancor, don't you?
I do.
You do?
Yep.
What is the name of that Rancor?
Patissa.
5 points, baby. 5 points. And your winner. Get Chris Adams in the FCL Star Wars right now. That's good. That's tough.
So here's the thing.
Do you know the name of the person whose skull Luke throws at the door?
I just saw this, actually. I just saw this.
This is what's so dumb about Star Wars trivia, and I adore it. When I find out that skull has a name, I will spend the rest of the day making sure I know that name because it's such fun trivia.
It was like Thwarviz or something like that. I'm close. I'm not quite there.
Yeah. Would you like me to tell you?
Yeah, go ahead.
Bidlow Corvette.
Corvette. That's it. I knew there was a V in there. There's an R and a V in there.
But anyway, yeah, okay, so that's good to hear. This is just, he's a Rancor. He probably kills his Rancors all the time. This is 10 years before Star Wars?
And that's the dark part about this episode, too, is you look
at
how...
He's going to kill that Rancor.
So I looked back at some of the reading on both Patissa and just how Jabba has Rancors and stuff. Jabba likes to have exotic pets.
Right. He's Mike Tyson.
Exactly. Yeah. And he likes to make his exotic pets fight. That means he's bound to lose some of those exotic pets in fights. And so I don't think things are looking too good for our friend Moochie here.
This thing is going to be, they're going to tape claws to it and they're going to have it fight another baby Rancor, and one of them's going to kill each other because that's how things are in the dark, dark world that we never think about of gangsters in Star Wars. What? Scarface shot a friend? I can't believe it. Yeah, he's a gangster. He's always been a gangster. He has cockfights or Rancor fights, and they bet on them. And that's pretty hardcore.
I think there was even a story of like he was going to make either Patissa or a Rancor that he had previously go up against a crate dragon, and it's like. No. Oh no! I think it was Patissa because I believe Malakili tried to object to that and was like, no, please don't do that. He's going to die. And so I think there was like a storyline or something where he was trying to escape with Patissa and kind of get out from underneath Jabba. But
that's a rough life for a Rancor keeper for Malakili because that ain't the first. I mean, he grew attached to that Rancor. He cried. For anybody who doesn't know, the person that cries after the Rancor is killed when Luke throws the skull of Bidlow Corvette into the switch and kills Patissa. I mean, are we speaking a foreign language yet or not? But hey, this is what's so great about Star Wars trivia is that all these people have names.
Yeah.
Malakili comes and he cries and he's very attached to it. But that's like the fifth Rancor he's probably raised for. I mean, Jabba may go through Rancors the way he goes through frogs that he eats or whatever those things are, you know?
Or his slave dancers.
Right. Right. Exactly. Exactly. Just in the span of Jedi, we see him kill a frog, a Gamorrean guard, a dancer, and try and kill Luke.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's Scarface. He's Scarface. Not a good guy. Not a good guy.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah. He's cute. We think he's cute. Han Solo steps on his tail. He goes, whoa! But, the guy is a mean mother.
So this was a really interesting storyline to bring in because, again, we have a situation where, we're not thinking about a storyline that could exist with characters that exist before and how they can interact and just a little bit can weave into the story that we're building right here with the Bad Batch. But lo and behold, Bad Batch are talking to someone who's got a connection with Bib Fortuna.
Right. Bib Fortuna comes in to say, where is Mochi? And that's when we realize, like, oh, it's the Rancor is what they were sent. Because we think they're sent to go find a human being or a person or save someone, only to realize halfway through, like, oh, it's the Mochi is the punky muffin in this one is the Rancor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a nice little reference in there. I mean, especially because, like, again, we're dealing with, like, this isn't Tatooine. This is far away from where Jabba's at. I assume I have actually no idea where the position.
Yeah, it's the Wild Wild West.
Are.
It's out in the Wild Wild West. We've made a transition to episode 4, and that's the Wild Wild West. Episodes 1 through 3 are the city, the suburbs, that sort of thing. And now it's to the Wild Wild West. Now they've made that switch quick. It's like there are no rules out here.
Right. So kind of rewind a little bit where we're in the area where the Zygerians are at. The Bad Batch are kind of going in. They think they know who they're going after. It's the only child they see in their sight. So, all right, let's move. Let's go in there. And not but minutes later, they get caught.
Yeah. By the way, the deep reference, the child that they think it is, I think there's a parent and a child of the same species. That species, I believe, is the same species as Zizor from Shadows of the Empire, right?
Really?
Green skin with the hair coming off the back. I'm pretty sure the child and I think there's an adult of the same species with them is a Zizor, but I don't know. That species has a name, I'm sure. Yeah. So I think that's a familiar species as well. Do you know Zizor? Do you know that character?
Loosely. I've seen images. I don't necessarily know exactly what he was doing or what he was controlling over or any kind of stuff like that. But
yeah. But the premise of Shadows of the Empire is it takes place in between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, and several years before, or maybe a couple years before Phantom Menace, there had been no Star Wars media for years. There was the Timothy Zahn novels. Then after those 3 came out, and that was literally the first Star Wars thing that came out in a decade, they did one called Shadows of the Empire, and they released a whole toy line for Shadows of the Empire, which was a book. And then they did an audiobook that was a full adventure drama, dramatized everything with John Williams music. And it was kind of like, there was this kind of beat where you're like, all right, man, it's like 1994 or something like that. You're like, all right, Star Wars is back. Because we haven't seen anything since 1983. There's like toys and a book and a dramatization. You're like, all right, this feels like Star Wars. But anyway, Zizor was the gangster leader of Black Spire? Not Black Spire. Black Sun?
Black Sun? Yeah, I think Black Sun sounds right.
He's the gangster leader of Black Sun, and there's only 5 criminal organizations in the Star Wars universe. There's Crimson Dawn, the Hutt Cartel, Black Sun, and then 2 others that are really obscure and haven't been dealt with at all.
I know there's the Pikes.
Oh, the Pikes. Sorry, Pikes. And then there's like 1 more or 2 more that are like nobody's mentioned much of yet. I
don't know if any of the ones from Solo.
No, Pikes is the other one in Solo. Pikes, Crimson Dawn, and then roughly the Hutts are mentioned also in Solo, kind of. But yeah. But again, this is the Star Wars, the deep well that it is. The idea that there are gangsters is just mentioned in Return of the Jedi. We meet one gangster of one gang. Therefore necessitates there are other gangs that we will not hear about for 25 or 30 years. And then they will start to flesh these things out. All right, Black Sun's one of them. Oh, that's it. And then for 15 years, no other gang is mentioned. And then we get Crimson Dawn and and the Pikes.
What was Zizor brought into canon, or is he still Legends?
I don't think he's brought into canon yet, but he's one that obviously the species has now been brought into canon.
Right.
But no, Zizor has not. But I think it's just a matter of time. I really like how they, as much as people complain that the books and stuff was just wiped out entirely, I really love how a reference will show up in Rogue One, character, a stormtrooper style will show up in, Rise of Skywalker, and it's like, all right, that's the way to do it. We don't need to do the full Mara Jade, blah, 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 like that. You realize how ridiculous that is, but like, let's pluck things out. Hey, maybe Mara Jade will show up in, Ron Howard Solo too. I don't know. But she won't be the same character, but at least you'll get to go, oh, yeah, I kind of get that. That's cool.
Rewrite who the character is. Yeah, I mean, everything's on the table.
Right.
Anything from those books is on the table, so.
Yeah.
I like this because, once again, we're seeing a situation now, we're talking about the Bad Batch being captured here, where they are in trouble, and the only one who can save them is Omega.
Yep, they keep setting that up. The guys get in trouble, and the one thing that can help them is the plucky little kid.
And they're really doing some great stuff too. Like, I'm almost losing my place. I want to go back even further when they're actually talking to Sid in the little bar cantina place.
And Sid is the Trandoshan that was their contact, right?
Yeah, right.
They go on this planet. We have a connection named Sid, and they'll help us find out about the bounty hunter.
Right, and so they're asking, like, where's Sid? And she's like, oh, Sid's not here. You're in the wrong place. And then Omega just walks up and like, you're Sid, aren't you? And she's like, as if,
right? As if the Force binds us and brings us together and allows someone to see through what someone's facade is. As if.
I'm saying, once again,
she's got the Force. We just don't know how. We just don't know
Omega has
what
the Force.
Is. She does. Yeah. I think the Kaminoans figured out how to breed. I mean, they're the best cloners in the galaxy.
Yeah.
Which, God, you got to see the runner-ups, huh? Oh my God, can you imagine the runner-ups? Like, they're the best cloners in the galaxy. Can you imagine what the second best are making? But.
That's got me thinking. I know we've mentioned, like, in prior episodes of this that we were talking about, what if the Kaminoans get upset and they want to pit their clones against the new recruits of the Empire, and of course we see like a whole battle between clones and stormtroopers essentially, which would be cool. But we obviously know the Kaminoans would have to lose that based on stormtroopers going forward. But that makes me wonder if there's some part of this where the Emperor finds out that they have successfully cloned a Force sensitive in some capacity, and he's like, first of all, give me those secrets. Second of all, go away. You're done.
The Kaminoans would have a huge stake in keeping that from the Empire, keeping that knowledge from the Empire. They could let them know everything else, but that would have to be kept secret upon, like, we'll have to kill people. We'll have to start a war in order to keep that secret. Because if the Empire finds that out, and the Empire is trying to figure out how to create their own super species of soldiers, however, and Darth Vader gets wind of that, you could just manufacture Jedi? Hey, Emperor, you interested in this? Yeah. That's just like, that is a absolute game changer to squash the rebellion instantly, to go, we can make Jedis with the Order 66 chip? Okay, let's do that. Yeah, that would have to be kept an enormous secret, and Omega is probably the key to letting them know that the Force is possible to be cloned into people, because it's a life force. It's all living things have the Force in them to some degree. What has more living things compressed into it than these clones that are bred and speed accelerated in their learning and all that stuff? Like, a lot of life going on, a lot of potential for the Force if the Kaminoans figured out how to turn that switch.
Yeah, this excites me because I think what you bring up is true. I think this secret actually does die with the Kaminoans here. I think we see that the secret goes down with the ship, basically, because we're seeing, but the Emperor still is aware of it, because I think what's happening is Omega is essentially the beginning, which is odd that her name's Omega. It's the beginning of the thread line that goes through, Grogu to Snoke and then back to Palpatine again.
You have to rethink that, because in the Bible it is stated as the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. Omega is the end. When you mention Alpha and Omega, Alpha is the beginning, Omega is the end. So Omega is the end of something that's very deliberately named, not the beginning. Well, I mean, I guess after her would be a new beginning, but Omega, in symbology, Omega is the end. I am the beginning and the end. I think this is like God says, I'm the beginning and the end. I am the Alpha and the Omega.
Yeah.
So she is the end of something. She is the final, perhaps the final height of this series of clones. The Kaminoans would be so proud as to improve. And as they said, they've started to degrade. So they are at maximum capacity for the best they can do with this DNA, and that's Omega.
Yeah, they've created
Omega's
a clone.
the end, Garth says.
Yeah, they've created a clone for essentially it's the end of what they could do with Jango Fett's DNA, essentially.
Right.
But it's only the beginning of what they were really wanting to accomplish, and why they were so quick to say, "Okay, cool, yeah, we'll do your little project there, Mr. Jedi, Mr. Sifo-Dyas, who comes in here and tells us to start cloning." Absolutely.
Right. Then just disappears.
Exactly. But then
I do framed your art for you. You're gonna come pick this shit up.
I do think that this is, we see the way Dave Filoni's mind works essentially throughout all this, through the Clone Wars, Rebels here. I do believe, even Mandalorian, we're seeing like that through line that he's linking back to, what the movies established with Palpatine coming back and him trying and failing with like Snoke and everything. So
right. Yeah, there's a direct line, way down the line to that as well. Like, this is some of the first experimentation. It's not Sith experimentation yet. The Sith experimentation goes back, the Darth Plagueis. That is wizard, that compared to what's going on now, which is much more technological. The old story that Sidious tells is like wizards and warriors stuff. Now it's so funny that there's a version of Star Wars that is less science and more fiction. And now we've kind of caught up with the science part, that they figured out how to do what Darth Plagueis has always prophesized with just regular science. So it's really interesting. There's 100 ways it can go.
I like it too, because like it's Star Wars has always it's been said it's like sci-fi, but it is truly fantasy.
It's fantasy,
and so I love what they're doing with the science, because it's the science trying to replicate the fantasy side of it. They're trying to replicate magic, and it's just really great. But we're talking,
By the way, one of the most underrated things, there's so much that's unsaid in Star Wars that sometimes it blows your mind that you go, oh, the table is set with so many assumptions, because it is not only a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, but episode, blah, 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 where something has happened before it. We're always in mid-story in Star Wars. One of the interesting things I realized when I looked at some old resource book, and it goes back to this is non-canon now, but it went back to the very beginnings of Star Wars, like as far as had been recorded in some of the books, that there's always been space travel. There's always been light speed. There is no Star Wars prior to light speed, and that's why it's fantasy and not science fiction. Isn't that interesting?
That's fascinating.
That when we think of our evolution, we think of cavemen, we think of very rudimentary axes and stuff like that. That flint axe to us is light speed travel. It's like, I don't know a time before it, but obviously at some point they invented it, because we got fire, we got flint, all that sort of stuff.
That's so fascinating. Oh, Cam was here and she's leaving. She said, "Be well, fellas."
Hello, Cam. Thank you for watching. We got
Cam.
Jake and Garth. We got the regular crew here.
Jake popping in.
Good.
Yep.
Yeah. Hello, sir.
Garth says it's space opera fantasy. Exactly.
Right.
So this is, again, we're talking about Omega here. We're talking about
Omega.
Omega. She's coming to save Rekka and Tech. And
one thing we got here. Yeah, she goes to, because they get enslaved. They get attacked by the dragon. Do we know the name of this dragon, the species? I didn't look it up.
It definitely has a name.
It feels like something that showed up in Clone Wars before.
It definitely has. It showed up. It showed up with the Zygerians before.
Okay. Oh yeah, because the Zygerians have shown before.
Yeah. I just can't remember what the name of it is.
Yeah, this thing is tamed by the Zygerians. They attack them. They catch them. They put collars on them. They put Running Man collars on them. Or I guess Anakin describes that he has a collar or something as well that'll blow your head off as well.
Yeah.
Very grossly descripted, but it seemed I didn't feel the threat level based on the performance, but
I'm sure it was there. Yeah, I love this though because we're talking about Omega's got to have the Force because she's very resourceful. Being able to watch her surroundings, mind her surroundings, maybe not necessarily like a rock or two here or there, but be able to see like what is available. Garth says Ordo Moondragon.
Oh, okay. That's from Clone Wars, I guess, as well. Yeah. Ordo Moondragon.
Yeah. But the fact that she's able to like look around, she sees the cage, kind of sneaks up on the cage and sees, if I just open this, that'll help.
Right. It's an accidental solution in the Force Awakens to open the prison cells with the Rathtars. Yeah. But here she has a strategic analysis and sees like, oh, okay, these guys are caught here. The soldiers are here. I can't attack the soldiers. I can't free them. But there's a third option. I see how all these sort of things are symbiotically linked. If I open this cage, solves two problems.
And I'm going to hop on the conspiracy theory train on this again about her being Force sensitive. I think the Force led her because that's exactly who they were there to get.
It's a life form in that cage. She knows what the life form is, and she sees the symbiotic connection between all the life forms that the cat people, the whatever they're called,
the Zygerians,
are holding the clones at bay. The clones are unable to escape because of this. Like, it's a life form in that cage, and she senses that because that's what the Force does.
And then what I love here is once the Zygerians are distracted, Wrecker's like, all right, I'm out of here.
Right, exactly. You just couldn't do it because they would shoot him. Like, yeah, I could tear this off anytime. Yeah.
And that's just fantastic. I loved all of it. I loved them bringing like the Rancors and giving us the visual of the young adolescent Rancor because they're kind of diving into. There's more to it than just a mindless monster that we saw in Return of the Jedi. It's an entire species.
Yeah, and right. Once again, I say for everything that's happened in Star Wars, it's all suggests a whole other story. So for as much Star Wars as there have been, it's 9 movies, the Clone Wars, this, that, the other, Mandalorian. This is the very second time a Rancor has appeared in Star Wars mythology in 40-some years, however long we are. I mean,
yeah,
that's how packed Star Wars is. Like, oh yeah, we've never seen a Rancor a second time.
Give or take whatever they might do in like the video games, but as far as like movies and TV goes, I think this is definitely the second time we've ever seen a Rancor. Garth says,
here we go. We got a correction department.
Oh, where's that?
Put it back up.
There's Brezax.
Yeah. Brezac. Zygerian gliding lizards, Reptavian lizards. Oh,
interesting.
Look for that. Isn't this the Rancor that will be going to Jabba? And no, Garth, we already covered that. That Rancor is named, if you want to hear something really nerdy, that Rancor is named Patissa. And both Chris and I know that. And when we heard the name of this Rancor, we were like, in continuity, this isn't the one that Luke kills.
Which you would have to expect, like, that's kind of their way of like keeping some of the darkness out. Like, we can only assume what happens to this Rancor, but at least we know that this isn't the one that our hero Luke had to unfortunately put down.
Yes, Jabba, like many white trash gangsters, has a large collection of dangerous animals. He's got a leopard, he's got a womp rat, he's got a Minoc. a cage of Minox. He's that eccentric guy. And we put together that he probably has the Rancors fight each other because he's that type of guy. He's not a good guy. You try and make Jabba cute all you want. He's got Rancor fights going on this weekend.
He's an ugly guy inside and out.
Right.
But
he can call his son Punky Muffin all he wants. He ain't cute. He's a gangster. He's a dangerous guy. He's got cockfights going on this weekend. Rancor fights going on this weekend.
Get your tickets.
Not good.
Yeah. So I think we're near to the end of the episode. Obviously, the Bad Batch succeed. And oh no, wait. First of all, the fact that Wrecker goes up face to face with this thing and kind of subdues it by dominating it in combat, like Wrecker's able to say, like, hey, let's do this, and he's like always like super excited about going and fighting anything.
But for all the things he's fought and all the gonk droids he's lifted, watching him defeat something that we now in our Star Wars mind know is like a mean mamma jamma, the Rancor, like watching Wrecker fight a Rancor. Granted, it's a small Rancor, but still, it's like that's good stuff. Like, all right, I want to watch Wrecker beat up a Rancor. That's
I'll pay for that. I'll pay top dollar for that. Yeah. And then the other thing is, of course, we see Omega picks up a weapon along her way out, which is that bow and arrow, essentially, that little light bow.
Yes.
So that's going to come in handy.
This is Legend of Zelda. You're going to have that rest of the series. You put up in board 4 and you the rest of the series. It's like I was like, oh man, that's a weapon. Imagine season 3, Omega's like 14, 16 years old, and she's an expert with that thing, and you're like, oh, that's right, she picked that up as episode 5.
Yeah, she's going to turn into like a little Hawkeye.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I would suggest this to anybody, and I think it might be on Tubi. The Dungeons and Dragons cartoon from 1985 or 86. Do you know of this cartoon?
I might have seen something about it at one point, but no, it's not something I would have caught up with.
Yeah, I mean, it's right. It's totally something you'd have to track down now. It was on TV every week when I was a kid, but it's a really good cartoon. Some of them are written by Paul Dini, and some of them are written by the Babylon 6 creator as well. Really good writing, really good animation, like expensive animation. You hold it up against a lot of other like toy cartoons where you're like everything's like this so that they can save frames. You're like, no, this one's like lushly. But the best thing was the main character had a bow with no thing, and when he did this move, it turned into the string and the energy arrow. And so when I saw her with the arrow, I was like, oh man, shades of Dungeons and Dragons, the old cartoon.
Interesting. Garth says she keeps learning new skills and adjusting. She's Taskmaster from Marvel Comics.
Oh my god! If you told me, by the way, sorry, quick aside. Thank you, Garth McMurray. If you told me when I was a kid and I watched them try and make Superman movies and fail, try and make Batman movies and fail, Michael Straczynski, thank you, Babylon 5. I think he wrote some of those cartoons as well. I mean, they were all Saturday morning cartoon writers. The fact that we would ever get to Taskmaster in a Marvel movie makes me so happy. It's one of my favorite villains. Amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah, Marvel's just great about getting deep with their characters in these movies too.
So impressive.
So we see Bad Batch saves the day. They somehow are able to wrangle the Rancor back to Sid just in time for Bib Fortuna to be there, and the Gamorrean guards. Oh
yeah, that's right. And the Gamorrean guards as well. I don't know if they're the canonical Gamorrean guards that are in Jabba's palace because I know their names as well.
you know that even the one that fell into his pit has a name. Even the one that was eaten by the Rancor has a name.
He does, and if you give me to the end of this episode, I will tell you the name of that one.
Because again, it's another name that I know I just read, but as of right now, it's completely out of my head.
Yes, Garth mentions here, I could go on about Saturday morning cartoons. By the way, fun fact, as an adult, forever, even when they went off Saturday mornings, I wake up and watch cartoons Saturday mornings. I watched Mask this morning on Tubi. Jason the Wheeled Warriors, also a very good one. Yeah, that was J. Michael Straczynski.
There's always aspects of us that just never grow up, and that's okay. That's okay.
It's so encouraged now. Like you spend a lot of time where a certain society says you got to grow up, grow up, and then we persist. We stay immature kids, and then we meet each other. And I hang out with dopes like Kaiser today, and I'm like, or Paul Preston. I'm like, it's a whole room of people that have never grown up.
But you find your kind, and then you just have fun together. Is what it ends up being.
Exactly. But and then that's exactly how you end up with Dave Filoni also, man. That guy never was like, I should probably put a tie on now. Like, no, double down on the cowboy hat and double down on how much I love Star Wars, and my guidance counselor can go screw.
Find what you like, make some money off of it, just do it for the rest of your life, enjoy it. There you go.
There you go. That's the Cinefanatics talking, folks.
Yeah, there you go. So really great episode. I think, it ends with Sid basically offering Hunter, like, if you guys want any more work, I know there's a bounty hunter after you, so I'll keep the secret. Will you, Sid? Will you? As long as you keep working for me, I will. But right. It's essentially what it's going to be.
Again, the lawless West. We are in the lawless Star Wars. All those complaints about the lawful years of Star Wars was not as fun as the lawless years of Star Wars. We're back in the lawless years. Once Order 66 switched over, now we're in the pre-Episode 4 times. It's rapidly changing to a very recognizable Episode 4 universe.
It's just remarkable to me, though, that this entire episode existed just for the Bad Batch to find out that the bounty hunter's name is Fennec Shand, and that's pretty much it. We find nothing else out about her.
That is the only piece of information that has anything to do with the arc of this show. This show, at this point, really doesn't care about its overall story. It's having fun being its week-to-week premise. And I feel like I've seen this happen in certain episodes of the Clone Wars. Certainly Rebels. Rebels started, and I remember first 3 episodes or so, it really introduced all the characters and like that. And then it was just like one off. And then suddenly, like, they whipped some mythology. You got lulled into a sense of like, oh, I'm just kind of enjoying the world. I'm enjoying the world. And then they whipped some serious, like, Sith stuff at you. And you're like, what?
They got deep.
Yeah, like, oh my God, we went full Star Wars. I'm just counting the days until the Bad Batch does that. Might not be next week, might not be the week after that, but at some point we're going to be like going, oh, let's see our boys have another fun little adventure and see Omega save the day and watch him, do this and save that and whatever. And then they're just going to whip some like deep Star Wars mythology and we'll be like, holy shit. And then they'll go right back to one-offs, but you're like, wait a second, and then I feel like this is kind of their thing. And they'll string it out, and then by the end of this season, they'll whip another big piece of Star Wars mythology just up to cliffhanger you. And then season 2 will play out much more like season 2 of Rebels, where that will become more frequent, and then one-offs will become less frequent, and then third season you get deep mythology.
So the question for everybody is then, do we see the Bad Batch accidentally stumble upon Mortis? Because that would be insane.
Mortis?
I don't think there's anything left of Mortis for them to figure out. Yeah, the father and the daughter and the son, that whole arc. That was one of the deepest Force lore arcs, I think, within the Clone Wars. That also like played into Rebels as well a little bit.
Wait, am I missing? What did we talk about this? What's Mortis?
No, it's just that. It's just like what kind of deep mythology can they pull into the Bad Batch? And so I'm thinking, like, what happens if they stumble upon this like really deep Force stuff that nobody who isn't wielding the Force can ever have any kind of like real comprehension of. So that'd be kind of fun.
I'm really hoping for the Force Jedi crossover to go through the science of Kamino. I think that's really fascinating because we've. Like I said, you write off a lot of stuff in the prequels because it just comes and goes. Like, oh, there's a planet called Kamino. Moving on. It's like, what? Huh? What? And so now you get into that and you're like, what is the politics of Kamino? Like, what, if the Kaminoans are experimenting on clones, like, they would try to create Jedi. Like, what type of person that's trying to perfect the human being for war or combat or whatever would not go, oh, there's some people who do superpower stuff? We'll just keep cloning the way we are. Like, no. Let's upgrade that. Let's get them chromed Like, if I inject nitrous into the gas line, it goes faster. I'm not interested in that. Wait a second. Let's try that,
Your scientists were so preoccupied with trying to see if they could, they didn't stop to think of whether or not they should. I butchered that quote, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you're applying it to Jedi, you can make it your own.
Yeah,
in fact, you can say it backwards and be very Yoda. If you, how would you say that like Yoda? Scientists are so concerned to I'll have to think of that.
Could your scientists were concerned with? They should have been.
Should they didn't wonder? Should they didn't wonder if they should?
What did that little green guy just say? I have no idea.
I don't know. Is the Ian Malcolm, the Yoda, the Grogu Malcolm is a little more complex.
Oh, man.
Chaos theory, that is.
We're falling into a deep hole that just.
Let's bring back the Ian Malcolm version next week. I like that as a runner.
Absolutely, guys. If you guys got any questions, now would be the time to get them in. Otherwise, we are wrapping up here.
Garth's got one down here.
Garth's got one?
Maybe the Empire do get some cloning Jedi tech, and that leads to cloning Palpatine. Yeah. Yep. This is what we're saying. Like, you can kind of, like, again, we're making big hay out of just a couple references from the last few episodes, but the Kaminoans, so little's been said about them and who they are that it suggests so much more. And you could draw a direct line. Because the cloning of Palpatine, the creating the Palpatine clone, that's also springs from Palpatine telling the story of Darth Plagueis the Wise. But we said earlier, I think before you hopped on here, Garth, that like when you compare what the Kaminoans are doing to the story that Palpatine tells in the box at the Opera House, it's like, that is witchy poo stuff. That is oogity boogity. And then Anakin, they said oogity boogity boogity, and, magic things happen. Like, compared to that, like, Kaminoans are like, this and that, and we add this, and the growth acceleration, and, it's very technical, like, compared to the wizardry and boogity boogity that Palpatine says in the box. So that is interesting, is like, wow, how does it get from witchcraft through the Kaminoans to, like, actually seriously cloning a Jedi, which is what happened in Rise of Skywalker, which is insane. They cloned an emperor. They're like, let's make emperors. You want to make some emperors? Yeah. And obviously the Kaminoans didn't help with that one because that one was fucked up. They left that one in a little too long, I'll say.
I mean, essentially, we're talking about when does magic become part of DNA, and that's the fun aspect of it. I mean, we got a little bit of
fantasy, right? Yeah,
we talked about like the midi-chlorians and stuff before, and I think that's definitely part of it. But I mean, from Harry Potter to Jurassic Park, that's exactly it.
Yeah, that's exactly what you say about fantasy, because it's, DNA can be sci-fi until you go, and then we wave a wand over it, and now you're in fantasy. I don't care how much DNA you're talking about. Like, now you're in fantasy.
Or we can bring up Thor, where we talking about magic is just science you just don't understand yet.
Yeah, that's a good point too. Yeah, that rises the line nicely.
Who knows?
Yeah. Well, that's Kevin Feige is a gigantic Star Wars fan. Do you know? Fun fact: someone loses an arm or a hand in every Marvel movie.
In every Marvel movie?
I have heard this. Now, I haven't tracked for the last 3 movies because this was said before that. This was said before the last 3 movies. But he said, as an homage to Star Wars, somebody loses a hand or an arm in every Marvel movie. And I didn't completely go down the rabbit hole, but it's, when you think about it, it's true.
To go back. Man, see, now you got me preoccupied. I'm going to end up on that for the rest of the night. I'm going to be like,
yeah, it tracks. It's probably, probably a Google search. But I remember when that was brought up, I did the mental math of at least like 10 of the movies. And I was like, oh my God, yeah, someone loses an arm in almost every movie.
That's crazy. But anyways, guys, we're going to start wrapping it up here. First of all, I mean, you get to this part of the show, you start doing the plugs. So, Adam, you got a bunch of stuff that you're doing and all over the place. Let them all know what they can find and where they can find it and all that.
If you love Harrison Ford, and don't we all, then the 2 biggest Harrison Ford fans in the world are Paul Preston and I. In fact, Paul Preston and I, if you know the movie guys, met because of a mutual love of Harrison Ford. Paul mentioned all of Harrison Ford's characters by name on stage, and I was the only person in the crowd to laugh. And I went up to him after the show and I go, by the way, I got that Harrison Ford joke. And he's like, we should be best friends. Want to go see Speed 2? That wasn't exactly how it worked, but that basically was. So we have created a show realizing that there were at least 10 to maybe 15 Harrison Ford movies that we'd never seen, old and recent. We said, let's watch every single Harrison Ford movie, and we put together a podcast, which is on episode 7, coming up on episode 8, Star Wars. That's right, he did 7 movies before Star Wars, not counting TV movies, which we will do as a Patreon exclusive. So go to The Movie Guys, at The Movie Guys on Twitter, and subscribe. Please go to YouTube, go to iTunes and subscribe to the Ford Fiesta, and type in, oh, thank God, someone that speaks the language I want, and it's The Movie Guys. The biggest secret. I'm glad they invented a podcast like this just for me. If you have that feeling, go leave a review. Anyway, that's the Ford Fiesta and The Movie Guys.
That's exciting.
What are you up to, Chris?
We just got a little bit of Movie Guys lore. I'm kind of taken aback by this, just to find out a little bit more about the Movie Guys, and then how you guys maybe didn't go see Speed 2 and probably just got a beer instead, because that would have been a better decision.
That would have been a better decision. Instead of spending a $20 cab ride to make sure that we got to Speed 2 on Friday night for some reason. That's a whole story. That's a real story. We decided we would see every single movie that summer on opening night, and we picked the wrong summer to want to do that. That whole summer was like, really want to go see Volcano on opening night? In fact, I think by Volcano we were like, oh, the hell with this.
This isn't ending well for us. But as for me, as for the Cinefanatics, obviously we're doing all sorts of stuff on this channel. You can come hang out anytime we're doing a live stream. Plenty of opportunities to kind of get your thoughts in there on the various topics that we discuss on this channel, especially like Tuesday nights. That's where we do our movie news show called The Tagline, talk about the latest that week in movie news, as well as, doing this every Friday. Every weekend. It's kind of flipping back and forth a little bit here and there for Friday and Saturday, depending on what's going on. But I know
did we do Friday last week?
I think we might do Friday next week. I don't know. We'll figure that one out. But we got Loki's coming up. Also, we're going to be hitting that on Wednesday. So all sorts of stuff. Awesome. But the best place to really capture at a deeper level everything we're doing is going to be that Patreon link up there. Patreon.com/Cinefanatics. We're doing movie trivia nights. We're doing watch-alongs. You can hop on our Discord. That one's just $1 just to be a part of that movie-loving community over there. Man, that's a great deal that we're offering out there, if I do say so myself. So,
and I got to say, Paul and I haven't started our Patreon page yet, but we got like lots of stuff to put up there that we haven't put up. I got to say, the Patreon idea, like if you just like that the Cinefanatics is doing this, they're putting this on together, like go just tip $1, whatever, like just like $5, just even if you're like, oh, I'm not going to watch every video up there. No, of course not. But $5 for like doing it. Like it's so anyway, yeah, just go contribute. I have a series of Patreons that I'm like, half the time I don't even go listen to it and stuff. Every once in a while I get caught up, but I'm just like, I just like that they're doing this stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, if you just want to support people and want to see them succeed and go further with their hopes and their dreams, a $1 to $5 is a fantastic help. It really is. But anyway, other places you can find us, obviously, Twitter, Instagram, all that, at Cinefanatics MLP. You can follow me specifically at Chris Adams MLP. I know people can find you at Twitter as well. You like to hop on that bad boy as well from time to time.
I twit.
Like to twit.
I'm a twit.
But
by the way, guys, before we get going here, Garth says a very good. He complimented the Ford Fiesta episode in the conversation, and I bring this up not just to plug the Ford Fiesta, although Harrison Ford is so great in the conversation. There are so many shades of Harrison Ford that we've seen in the first 8 movies that you're like, I don't think he plays any of these modes fully ever again. And conversation is one of them, where he's that guy where you like turn the corner and there he is and he's intense and staring you down and stuff. But I don't know if you know this theory, Chris, that the conversation, Harry Call, played by Gene Hackman in the conversation, that basically that character is the same character from Enemy of the State, a surveillance guy who's paranoid.
Oh.
And it really serves, there is really no argument to be made that they're not interconnected. They might as well be interconnected, and I'm sure Tony Scott was a fan of the conversation. How could he not be? So yeah, really, it's the Harry Call, the conversation into the sequel, Enemy of the State. And when and Enemy of the State is way more fun when you go, oh, this is Harry Call, like come back to save the day, because it's an art film. The conversation, that he just ends in despair because people could end movies sad in the 70s.
Yeah. That really is kind of a fascinating little bit of information there.
Yeah, and so if you ever get a chance to watch the conversation, immediately follow it with Enemy of the State, and you have a really good double feature there.
Exactly. And then Garth wants to finish us off tonight with one of his famous puns. Speed 2 had Willem Dafoe as the villain. You knew he was the villain because he was Dafoe. And on that note, thank you so much, Garth. Thanks everybody who popped in here tonight, hung out with us, listened to us jive a little on Star Wars, and you chimed in a little bit. Yeah, always a good time. Always a good time to have you here as well, Adam Witt. Thank you so much for jumping in and doing this with me.
This conversation is always unrancorous, I find. Well, except, of course, this episode.
Yes.
And your winner!
We got it. We can't get any better than that. So on that note, guys, we say goodnight. Catch y'all next time. And this is the awkward part where you want to play. This is the awkward
part where you find the leave studio button.
And here's the...